Good morning and welcome. Patriot Radio News Hour. Joe and Jason here on this Thursday. Almost done. Got today and then tomorrow is Friday. We got Jay Powell talking, lying out of his you-know-what, out of his backside. Surprise moves out of the Bank of England. Wait a minute. I thought everybody was supposed to take a timeout on rate hikes. Instead, the Bank of England goes 50 basis points as inflation, the worst in decades over in the UK. Is that a harbinger of things to come? Jobless claims came out today, a third week in a row. I guess, are we going to call it a pattern now? 3 straight weeks of over 260,000. But here's the great news. Gold and silver are down for no reason, but this is what happens. Listen, it's paper gold, paper silver. Let them make their dollars. Here's the great point for us. We get to buy it for less because nothing's changed. What's changed? Let me ask you, what's changed between now and when gold was over 2,000? What's changed? Let's see. Do we still have inflation? Yep. I guess the one thing that's changed is the Fed is like, well, we gotta hike more. So were you lying before when you thought that we just needed to get to 5%? I mean, let's face it. 3 years ago, you told us it was transitory, that you didn't even need to do anything. And then you started raising rate, and then by the end of last year, oh no, we're down to 1/4 point. I mean, outside of that, well, let's see. The economy's gotten slower. Is that bad for gold? Jobless claims. That's gotten a lot worse. Of course, we never know. They always change the numbers, but that's gotten a lot worse lately. That's good for gold and silver. I would definitely say take advantage of the paper guys. Because, I get it. They want to believe. They want to somehow believe that they can get out of this without the pain that needs to happen. And I'm sorry. I want to believe that too. I do. That'd be great. That means why not go to 50 trillion, 60 trillion, hell, 100 trillion of debt if that was the case? It's not. You know it's not. I know it's not. I'm going to tell you right now, I'm not real happy with the listeners today. I mean, yesterday we were selling those peace dollars below stinking cost. And we only sold like half of them. I still got like 18 rolls of peace dollars below cost. Are you not listening? Or do you not? Maybe you don't care. That's probably it. You don't care. It's hot. I want to go play golf. I'm thinking about going to the beach. Right? I hate California, but I like to visit. I get it. Maybe you're going to Mexico. Right? Somewhere like that. You can't let opportunities like that go by. That's just dumb. Right? You know as well as I do, hey, they don't come around that often. You got to be on your toes. You got to take advantage. I've still got, like I said, I got 18 rolls of peace dollars. They're $620 a roll, and that is below cost. By 75 cents a coin below cost. 800-951-0592. That's our toll-free number. You know the number. allamericangold.com is the website. I got a great little gold special. I got a really good gold special today as well. So we got a lot of things, Jason, to talk about. It starts with England. I mean, what's the UK Central Bank doing? I mean, that's not the plan, guys. You're supposed to follow what we do. Apparently, it's funny. We talk about China not following what we do. Brazil doesn't follow what we do. The Middle East doesn't follow what we do. India, the president of India is here. They don't follow what we do. But England, the UK, what? What do you mean a surprise 50 basis point rate hike?
There are some fundamentals that are working, Joe, in this weird situation. Even though the Fed did bail out a bank or two and they were failing a few months ago, they are tightening. They are shrinking the money supply, even though it's just a little tiny bit off their balance sheet. It is shrinking. Besides that one little hiccup to save those banks, they have been trimming their balance sheet. So if you actually take money out of the money supply, gold will go down with it. It's a function of how much money is there. I talk about the reverse repo. I'm telling you, Joe, when that thing empties out, and it will empty out at some point, that's when they have to print. They need. This is a Ponzi scheme. They have to have more. So if gold goes down to 1900, and Joe's pretty confident it won't go below 1900, but even if it does, if it goes down to 1850, it doesn't really matter. This is very quickly, and before you know it, it'll springboard back up, and then you'll be like, oh, I wish I would have bought it. I should have bought those peace dollars. Should have bought the gold back when it came back in 2023. This is why the metals program is so good. Those people don't have to worry at all, Joe. They just continue to put, to cost value it in, whether it's up or down. They just continue to put the money in and not have to think about it. That's how you should do it. Playing that moment to buy gold at the right time just ends up being it costing you more, because eventually, Joe, when it springs up hard. And I'll tell you, the supply of gold and silver will be so tight once the money supply starts to go back up. And it will. They'll have to print, even if the rates are high, they're going to have to print. And printing money means higher gold price. It's just we're kind of in that weird situation, Joe, where they are trying to trim some money off the balance sheet, and that could make gold a little harder to go up at this particular moment, which means buying opportunity, Joe.
Yeah, I don't buy any of that crap, right? I mean, let's face it. The banks aren't better. I know they want you to believe they're better. This rate hike from England today, that wasn't good for them. And guess what? We're going to have a rate hike here in another 4 or 5 weeks. That's not going to be good either. Patriot Radio News Hour. We'll be back after the break. Eight 800-951-0592. Joe and Jason, Patriot Radio News Hour on this Thursday. And no surprises, another down market. You had Wall Street had a rally on the pause, right? And saying, oh, yeah, an AI, right? Chat box! That'll save us. But now with more rate hikes on the way, listen, it's just not a good picture. The derivatives, matter of fact, if you're really a junkie, and I mean like heroin to the max, San Francisco street person, junkie for bank balance sheet stuff, go out to allamericangold.com today and go read the article about the derivatives and specifically interest rate derivatives held on the bank's balance sheets by the Martins. Wall Street on parade. If you want to get your mind blown, go do it. I won't bore you with it because, like I said, it's very technical, but this is not a good thing whatsoever. But right now we got the Dow down 75 points, the S&P is down, the Nasdaq's up. We'll see what gold does. Gold yesterday was down about where it is right now. Right now it's 1918, and then came all the way back. I don't know that it'll do that today or not, but right now we got gold down $15. We got silver down about 33 cents. Silver's at 22.5. The great, one of the cool things, like the peace dollars, doesn't care. The Morgan and peace dollars don't care about spot price. So it's kind of it could be a good thing and a bad thing sometimes. But in any event, if you're tired of the nonsense, you know what? I had a great customer in here yesterday and said, Joe, what's the deal with why refi? Because he's been listening to me since I started, 20 plus years. He's like, you've never, ever pitched anything other than gold and silver, and then maybe, stuff, radio station stuff. For those of you that don't know, I own the radio station in Colorado, 1360. When Jason and I finish this show, we do 2 more hours of radio on 1360. 1360khnc.com. You can stream us in and listen all day long if you'd like. And I said to him, I said, you're right. And I said, I wasn't going to pitch this one either. When they asked to meet with me, we had lunch down at the Biltmore, and I was getting filled in. I kind of knew the details, and I'm like, yeah, this sounds like BS to me. I get it, right? Of course, it sounds like BS. Up to 10.25% return. It's got to be BS. And then I met with Lane. This was a guy, you know what he did for a living before he started Y Refi? He collateralized student loan debt for a major bank. And he was one of those guys, he's like, man, I hate my job. I hate it. All of these poor kids and these parents and these co-signers, right? The default rate on private student loan, it's astronomical. It's in like 20, 30, 40%. I mean, it's ridiculous how bad it is. And he found out as through doing all this stuff, all the banks, they don't care. They destroy these people's credit. Right? Who the heck in their right mind would lend $40,000, $50,000, $100,000, $200,000 to teenagers with no jobs? It's ridiculous. But of course, remember, Alan Green.
It works for socialism, Joe. It works for
you're
socialism
right.
to get these people. You get debt slaves, and man, you can push your own agenda.
You know, you're so right. And Alan Greenspan told you all had to go to college. Yeah, right. Everyone's got to go to college. You don't go to college, you're just going to be poor forever. Here's the problem. You know what happened? I went to college, and now I'm poor forever. But he found out, hey, you know, all of these banks, they sell this debt to there's only a couple of collection agencies. They buy it all. The same ones. And he's like, there's no way all of these people can be deadbeats. These millions and millions and millions of them, tens of millions, they're all deadbeats? No way. And he found a better way. And, of course, obviously, with only having to make a deal with a few companies, so essentially I'll just tell you how it works really quick. Let's just say a student default, and let's just say it was $100,000. The bank wrote it off, send it to the collection agency. The collection agency buys it for, 7, 8, 10 cents on the dollar. Right? They give the bank, whatever, 7, 8, 10 grand. They own it. Y Refi, they've got a great program because they realize, listen, Layton knows, hey, a bunch of them are deadbeats. I don't want those guys. But they have a very, very, I don't want to even say sophisticated. It's a very, very simple process to whether or not you can qualify to get your student loan back on track with Y Refi. You don't meet any of these requirements, dude, they don't deal with you. You're done. But if you do, they've already got the deal set up with the collection agency. They buy the debt for 30 cents on the dollar. Collection agency's elated. Right? Hey, I bought it for 10. You gave me 30. Here's the great part. Right? Obviously, now you know how can they pay 10.25%. Well, that's how. They own $100,000 worth of debt for about 30 grand. And guess what? They give such a great deal to the borrower that within 8.5 years, they've got it all paid off. The whole 100 grand. Check them out. InvestYRefi.com. And again, I looked everywhere to find any type of investor complaint. You know what? I did find 2 complaints when I was doing my homework. 2. You know what they were? They were from people who wanted Y Refi to help them out with their student loan debt. And then for whatever reason, they didn't meet the criteria. I don't know what happened, but they were mad, so they complained. Well, you didn't help me. Well, they got tough standards. But the ones they do help, even with COVID, right? COVID, hey, you don't have to pay. 96% of their people kept paying. I mean, it's even though they didn't have to, they paid anyway. I mean, that just tells you who they're dealing with. Check them out, investyrefi.com. That's the word invest, the letter Y, refy.com, or just call them 888-YREFI24. And as you know, listen, you got to have at least $50K. I mean, that's just the bottom line. You can use existing IRAs. Some of you can use your 401ks. If you want to get out of the rat race, Jason, I'm going to tell you right now, this is not going to end well. The Bank of England, people will say, well, who cares? It's England, it's UK. We don't care. It's a big deal. Got to remember, these central banks, they like to telegraph. Like, Jason and I were talking, right? Our central bank, they let the markets know way ahead of time what we're going to do. Everyone pretty much knew they were going to pause. Right? And if they raised rates again this time, they'd pause the next time. They knew, hey, we're going to go from 75 to 50. They knew when they were going to go from 50 to 25. So when a central bank gets out of line, it really is a problem, because that tells you something very bad is broken. And you know what? As we know in this global economy, Jason, it's just a matter of time before that broken stuff ends up here.
And their base rate isn't very high. I mean, what is it, around 2%, Joe? I mean, they're pretty far down there, aren't they? Still. Yeah, well,
they're gaining ground here. So I think they're now.
But they're nowhere near 5. They're nowhere near 5%, right? I mean, that's the whole point. They may have a lot of these coming.
And again, they probably do have a lot, and that's the problem. I think that's probably the biggest problem. And Jason hitting it on the head again today. There's more coming. And these banks can't handle more. That's the problem. They just can't handle more. And the derivatives and all of the other things that are on these balance sheets. And now take today, 264,000 people filing for jobless claims for the very first time. This is the third straight week of above 260,000. And that's, 270 to 300. Now you're in the danger zone, Jason. We're right next to the danger zone. You know what happens, right? Hey, you play with matches long enough, and eventually you burn the whole place down, Jason.
Right, and for summertime, for jobless claims, is that usually the lower end of those numbers traditionally, or does it usually go higher because people not working? It seems like
summertime
it goes
lower, it normally goes lower because you got the summer jobs, all the college graduates that have lined up work. It is a little surprising. Normally, we would expect to see this at the end of summer, right? And then you hope that it picks up with some seasonal hiring for the holidays. But remember, last year, the seasonal holidays, that wasn't really a big thing, right? Most of the companies are like, well, we're going to add, but we're not going to add like we did in years past. And, of course, we'll see what happens. I think this is going to be one of those telltale signs. I don't know if you're paying attention to the heat in Texas. The power grid there, right, back to it's amazing. How can we still have power grid problems? I mean, how many years now are we going to talk about power grids in Texas? You would have been better off, once again, had your power gone off. Texas says power prices soared 100% on Tuesday and Wednesday, up to $5,000 per megawatt hour, up from $2,500 the day. So $2,500 was already hugely elevated, then to $5,000 as temperatures topped 110. Wow, 110 there in Phoenix, in Texas. They said by the evening, power was costing $5,000 per megawatt, and that's the evening. That would be the cheaper time, right? Everybody knows if you're on an energy saver program, right, you don't do your laundry until like after 8 o'clock, right, Jason?
Right, yeah. It's gonna be something to watch for sure, because the hotter days are coming in front of us. These aren't the hot days; they're they're still coming, right? So, we'll see. We'll see what happens in July and August, I guess, right?
Well, I mean, I'm just thinking about, obviously your home bill, but what about? Well, I run a business, right? What happens with that, right? All of a sudden, hey, I'm used to paying, and I don't know, pick a number. Hey, my power bill is $500. Right? Next thing you know, here comes my next bill. It's $2,000. How about my power bill's $10,000? Let's say you got a big place. Now all of a sudden you get your bill. And remember in the UK, that would happen in the UK. People were like, "Yeah, my bill was $10,000. I got my bill. It was $100,000." And I'm sitting here and I'm trying to figure out how all of this is actually going to work. How is inflation going to come down? Have you asked yourself that? How is it really going to? Is it going to be magic? It's just magically going to disappear. I know Jay Powell would like it to magically disappear. I've been telling you how I know it will come down. Guess what? One of the major banks is starting to agree with me. I'll tell you who it is next.